What does it truly mean to put people first and to put citizens over corporations? In New Jersey's 2nd Congressional District, Terri Reese is stepping into the race for Congress with a vision rooted in community, fairness, and accountability. She's running to lift up working families, strengthen South Jersey, address its challenges, and be that voice, that representative to challenge the influence of big money in politics for the people of New Jersey's 2nd. Today we'll hear Terri's story, the priorities driving her campaign, and her hopes for South Jersey's future. We'll also take a look at 2 constitutional amendments recently introduced in Congress. It's going to be a thoughtful conversation about challenges, opportunities, and the future we can build together.
Have you ever wondered how our political system became so intertwined with big money? Well, it wasn't always like this. Decades ago, there were limits and regulations in place to prevent corruption and ensure fair elections. But then came a series of pivotal court decisions that established that money equals speech, setting the stage for the wealthy to have an outsized influence on politics. It's no wonder that over 75% of Americans believe it's time to take big money out of politics. Join us as we explore how money influences U.S. politics in profound and sometimes unsettling ways. The 75 podcast starts now.
Welcome back to the 75 podcast. This is the show dedicated to recognizing the most central issue in America today, the issue that is so rarely discussed by politicians and the corporate media. We are talking about money in politics. But we want to do more than just recognize and discuss. Those are the first 2 steps. We're working to solve the problem with heart, honor, and respect through education, inspiration, and empowerment. We want you and everyone to know it hasn't always been this way, and there is something we can do about it. I'm Michael Hahn, your host and the founder of the 75 Coalition. Today we're joined by Terri Reese, a candidate for Congress in New Jersey's 2nd Congressional District. Terri's running on a platform that centers around working families, the affordability crisis, healthcare reform, and restoring trust in our government. One of the defining issues of her campaign is tackling the influence of big money in politics. And we're going to spend some time exploring that in depth today. So, Terri, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
It's great to have you here. I'm really excited to get to talk to you, have a nice conversation about what's happening in South Jersey, learn a little bit about yourself, and share it with all the people, all the viewers that hopefully will be checking you out and voting for you in the primary to come. And so welcome.
Yep.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your campaign and what you stand for, where you came from.
Excellent. So I'll start with where I came from. I am a lifelong Atlantic County resident. I actually live in the same house that I grew up in. I purchased it from my parents when I got divorced. And my parents at that time were starting to fail physically. So I had said to them, I'm going to buy it from you. We're going to renovate it and make it handicap accessible because I'm sure that neither of you want to be confined to your rooms with a commode because you're both going to be wheelchair bound in a couple of years. So that's what finally got my father to go, yeah, I think you're right. But so I went to the Northfield schools, graduated from Mainland Regional High School through a lot of hard work, grit, student loans, working multiple jobs, attended the University of Pennsylvania, privileged to be able to spend my junior year abroad in Italy. And I traveled Europe by myself during that time that I was there. But again, all through student loans, working 3 jobs before and after I came back. When I came back, I actually ended up coming back as a second semester senior. I didn't realize that. I only needed 2 classes in order to graduate college. And so I started my retail career. So by the time my official second semester of college came around, I was already working full time as a manager with Victoria's Secret. And that's
Oh,
what started my retail career. And I was worked for other retailers for over 30 years. The Gap, Old Navy, Apple, LL Bean, Talbots, all in South Jersey. And being a retail store manager isn't just like folding t-shirts and jeans and all that stuff. We did like a lot of people think, oh, I just say hi and I bring people up. And no. So I was also an operational auditor, where I went around to the different stores within my district to make sure that they were functioning properly according to corporate standards, HR policies, marketing, all of that kind of stuff. I was also a scheduling and payroll expert. So training people on how to use payroll platforms. And it's something else when you walk into a store and your peers are like, I hate this program. And getting them at the end to be like, I get it now. Like, this is it. This is what we do. I'm like, yeah. I also open and close stores, so is
hmm.
stores, whether they were, moving to a new location or, and sometimes I was in the old location and, allocating resources that were there to other stores, to have that, to move stuff around. And
A lot of things
what
that
the
you don't think about, like that that are managed through the store,
oh
or
yeah,
as part of that. Yeah.
yeah.
Including, like you say, all the finances aspect of it
Hmm.
probably too.
Hmm.
Right.
Yeah. And the thing is when my managers would come to me with something that had happened in the store, and they would be like incredulous that they had to have this conversation with someone. And I would say, well, obviously you didn't read the small print on your job description. And they're like, what are you talking about? And I said, if you look at the really, really small print, it's really, really tiny. It says that you're also a school counselor, you're a therapist, you're a marriage counselor, you know, you're, you know, you're a financial counselor. You do all of the, you're building people up. You're trying to, help them out with whatever it is that they're going through. You're a resource. You're more than just, their boss. You're a
Yeah,
trusted
especially you want to
advisor.
have that healthy culture
Oh
at the
yeah,
store to make it a good place to work, right? Good
right.
for the customers that come in, for all
Hmm.
the experience that happens through there, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And through that all, um, I learned how to build relationships. Because you're building relationships with all different people. My staffs were very diverse throughout the entire demographic spectrum. Um, Identifying problems and their root causes, and then um, coming up with creative, workable solutions that were long term, not just band aids, because you can't run a $20 million store on band aids. Like things have to this is the problem. This is how we fix it, and it stays fixed for success going forward. So, and then I left retail after 30 years because my mom developed dementia, and I had said it wasn't the best financial decision of my life, but I had said, you know what, I need to take care of my mom. So money be damned. And I'm taking care of my mom because there are things that are more important than money. And I have family and people are one of them. So I was her primary full-time caregiver for 5 years while she battled that disease, going from limited mobility to where she was immobile, bedbound, nonverbal, and able to pass peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by the people and things that she loved. So during that time, I was also did a yoga teacher training. So I'm a private yoga instructor for kicks and
Oh,
giggles.
very nice.
Yeah, just and as I said, kicks and giggles. It's maybe like 4 or 5 classes a week, if that. It's just fun. And then I also went into tech. I got some work from home jobs where I work with tech startups. First, working their customer service because that was like a huge part of my background. But then, because I'm a lifelong learner, I love tech. And how it can be beneficial. Also knowing that it can be harmful, but knowing the benefits that it can have to help people. Um, Became a QA tester, end-to-end testing, working with product development teams in order to get a better user experience, and do all of that too. So, and that's what I do now as a consultant for
Oh, that's
startups.
what you're doing still now
Yeah. Yep. As a consultant.
in your
Yep.
spare time. No,
In
I'm
my spare
joking.
in my spare time. As people always say, how do you do all of this stuff? And I'm like, my kids know that I am a robot. I get focused. I'm able to do it and get it done and move on to the next thing. So, and speaking of my kids, I'm a single mom. I've been a single mom
Yeah.
since my kids were 1 and 3, and they're now 29 and 31.
That's
My
what I was just gonna ask you too. Two
Yeah,
kids.
two
Yeah.
kids, a boy and a girl, and my
29. Yeah.
daughter has battled significant mental and behavioral health challenges for the past 20 years. So the experience with my daughter, as well as the experience as a caregiver for my mom, give me firsthand insight into not only the healthcare industry and how seniors are treated, but also the mental health side of it with my daughter, and fighting to, advocate for her to get the services and the resources that she needs. When you have people look at her and say, she's articulate, she's beautiful, she's talented, she's all of these things. What do you mean that she has anxiety? And it's like, well, you're not the one who goes into her bathroom in the morning and finds her curled up crying because she just can't get herself out of the house that morning. So like she's, and there's things like that happen, and we go on with it. So, but that's,
and I guess and as in our current system, it's kind of a decent amount of hoops to jump through, or things you say trying to convince.
Oh yeah. I actually, and I actually had it when she was in high school. I presented the child study team with an assessment that I had paid for. My health insurance had paid for. I had really great insurance at that time. And I presented the assessment that this noted psychologist who works with Stockton University did on Kate, and said all of these things. And she said, I don't think that I can accept this. And I said, I don't mean to be disrespectful. Okay. You have a master's degree. Okay. This is from somebody who has their doctorate in psychology, is known as a statewide resource for students with mental and behavioral health issues, and works with Stockton University. And you're not going to accept her assessment that I paid for. You'd rather the taxpayers pay for her assessment. I paid for this on my,
I didn't like the outcome of the assessment, I guess.
No,
right?
No.
At the heart of it, yeah.
It was at the heart of it. And she struggled so much. I say that I graduated high school twice. And it got to a point where we were down to the wire her senior year. And they were like, we don't think we can pass her. And I said, my daughter's not going through this nonsense again. You are going to pass her. She is going to graduate, and we are going to move on. Okay. And that's, I'm done. I'm not dealing with this anymore, with, going to IEP meetings and not having everybody show up. It's like, what, we're done. We're done. This isn't doing anything for her. We're done. And she did, and she graduated, and that was great. But one of the other things I wanted to add too, that connects me not only with, the community, and, I also worked in almost every single mall in South Jersey as doing the things that I did, but I also volunteered to help if like people were down managers or vacations. So if I look familiar to people in South Jersey, it's because you probably saw me in Cherry Hill and Deptford and Burlington and Freehold and Vineland and like all over the place. Okay. But there's also been times where I've been unemployed between jobs, where I've been on Medicaid, and where I've not had health care at all whatsoever. So, and plus as a single mom, fighting for child support with my ex-husband, all of that. I've lived a lot of the same struggles that the people in my district have lived. So I can speak to them firsthand. I'm not guessing what they go through. I'm not from a millionaire's family. My parents were working class folks. My dad was an electrician. My mom was an operating room nurse. So like, I get it. Mm-hmm. And I knew how, we managed, we did things. How do you juggle things and stuff like that? So that's what I'm bringing to the table, that I feel that not only my main opponent, Jeff Van Drew, but my primary opponents may not be familiar with.
So you mentioned, that South Jersey area and people struggling.
Mm-hmm.
What is I know it's a diverse area because you got the beach, right? Mm-hmm. The beautiful beaches of Jersey, which I love. And I've been going to a little bit north. I go to the Lavalette area usually when we vacation. That's where my mom and her family have been going ever since they were young. Mm-hmm. But so I love it. I love it there. But then you have the farms in South Jersey as well. So it's kind of got a diverse mix, probably a lot of mixture on the wealth side too, with like really, really super wealthy. And then maybe a lot of poverty in like the outskirts of AC or the AC area now in Tulare. I'm not super familiar with the area down there. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the dynamics in South Jersey.
Sure. So New Jersey's 2nd Congressional District is the largest by area in the state. It encompasses all of Salem County, all of Salem County, Cumberland County, Atlantic County, Cape May County, and parts of Gloucester and Ocean counties as well. So it is huge, even though there's still the 770,000 people, which is pretty much the average of what the other districts have. It is huge. Okay. And like you said, it's very diverse. And it's not only diverse culturally, but also in terms of environments. So, yes, we have the very wealthy enclaves of the shore towns, and then we have the farms. We have the low-lying inland marsh areas and waterways, and we have the suburbs. So it's very, very diverse that way. And when you talk about the economic disparity, in the shadows of the casinos, you have a town that lives 35% or 35% of its residents live in poverty. 50% of its children are in poverty in Atlantic City.
And that's a hard bar to get down to, actually, because that poverty level is like
yes,
40,000 or less a year. It's like
it's
30,000.
It's just awful. It's just awful. And I remember as a child traveling throughout the district, because my grandparents for a time lived outside of Washington, D.C. So we would travel Route 40, which goes through the whole district, and sometimes seeing the farms and, the small towns and like all of that kind of stuff. And we would always, on our way back, we would stop at Richmond's Ice Cream in Elmer, when it was this great, Art Deco building and stuff like that. And we'd always go there and have ice cream. Well, now it's derelict. I think they have a farmer's market that's out there. So, every so often or whatnot, but the building itself, this wonderful, wonderful building, is just vacant and empty. And we see that a lot throughout South Jersey in what were once very robust main streets. And there are some that are making a comeback, but there are a lot that aren't, that are just empty, struggling, and so on and so forth. The homeless population that exists throughout the counties, there's a tent city behind one of the, I want to say it's a Walmart down in Rio Grande and Cumberland in Cape May County. There's horrible homelessness in Atlantic City as well, and we see that this current administration is looking at it as being, well, you're going into, well, you're all drug addicts and you're all have mental health issues. So we're going to go get you treatment and do that. Well, that's not everybody. There's a huge affordability crisis that's here. I know that my own property taxes went up $800 this past year. It's just ridiculous. And you have these multi-million-dollar homes, in many cases, that are second homes to people. And then you have people who, I was talking to a young gentleman several weeks ago who had gone to school in California, moved back here for his family, with his family because he works remotely. And he's like, I have $80,000 in the bank and I can't afford a house. Like, how is that? Like, I don't understand the dynamics here. Like, how is that happening? And it's not just the homes that are expensive. Another gentleman that is actually running for a county commission position, when he moved here, he's an immigrant. He moved from Haiti. He lived in one of the local apartment complexes that was $700 a month. And he said it's that same apartment now is like $2,100 a month.
Wow.
Nothing changed.
3 times. Yeah.
Nothing,
wow.
Nothing changed. Like, there weren't any great upgrades that were done to the system, to the community, to the buildings, to the structures, like any of that. That's just with that. So what we've seen is that expenses here and costs have significantly risen, but not at the same pace as income. And that's not just South Jersey, that's everywhere, but it's particularly hard to see when I drive through my town and I go past places that I remember as a child that were robust, that were always busy, always packed. I mean, we at one point had 4 supermarkets, and my father would always say, you go to ShopRite because they have the can sales. You go to Acme because they have a really good meat section. You go to Pathmark because their seafood is absolutely unbelievable. And you go to Superfresh because it's right around the corner from the house. And that's where you go if you have to. Oh, and then there's Smart Market. That's where you get your deli stuff, So he had it all planned out, but now a Lidl just opened up a couple years ago. All right. But it's just the Acme and the ShopRite that are still there. Tilton Market's still there too, but Pathmark, that entire shopping system or shopping center is derelict except for like a gym and a Foreman Mills. And I think there is like a charter school that's in there as well, but it's just
and
not.
The prices when you go in there are not like they used to be either.
No,
Well, that for a fact.
No,
Yeah.
not at all. Not at all.
I know
but
it's
even
it's it's
even small
probably a
businesses.
couple $100 a week just for two people, probably $200 a week
Oh yeah.
probably for two people,
And the
so
bags that, yeah,
$800 a month at a minimum on grocery bill could be
without a
more
doubt.
like 1,500 a month for a family of four,
Yeah.
on a
Yeah.
grocery bill. Yeah.
Without a doubt. And forget about it if you're
Yeah.
getting things. So, and
That's
it's
why we
everything. It's everything. It's
Yeah,
not
that's why
just
it's a
vegetables.
crisis right now. I think
Yeah.
that's the right word to use is affordability. It's all of
Hmm.
the above right here, into the
Yeah.
housing, the insurance, and the groceries.
Hmm.
You know, and
Even
we're
paper goods,
yeah,
laundry detergent, toilet paper, like all of that kinds, like everything is just so, the price have just gone up so much, and two, like looking at places that were staples in communities where people would get together and they're empty, and it's like, how is this empty? My sister used to work here as a bartender and they were packed all the time, and now it's empty, and again, it's not because something bigger and better opened up. It's because the cost of running these businesses just make it unaffordable for even small business owners to run businesses.
so I guess now we're kind of answering a little bit of this next question is that why you're getting into politics, which a lot of people probably say, like, why are you getting into politics? It's crazy. It's you
Mhm.
know, brutal. It's you know, cor-
Yeah.
I don't know, corrupt or why are you throwing yourself in? Why are you throwing yourself into this? Why are you doing this? So so why, Terry?
Why? Why am I choosing this crazy, crazy path? Yes. Committing myself to the grind that it is. Yes. Well, I've been interested in politics for quite some time, you know, and my son is very much into, as well as my daughter is very much into politics as well. My daughter's more interested or more focused on human rights issues, women's issues, things like that. My son is a huge studier of history from World War One, world and United States, but he's also very much into current events. So we would have very robust discussions about what was happening in the world, what's happening in the country, what's going on, so on and so forth, and what could change. And my son would always say to me, "You ought to run." And at the time in retail, I'm like, "How do I run? I'm in retail. I work 10 to 12 hours a day sometimes. Like, that's not happening, you know?" And then when I was taking care of my mother, you should run. You have great ideas. You understand what people go through. You've lived through like all of this stuff. And you're like, I'm taking care of mama. Mom is my focus right now. Okay, that's my focus. So then this past year, and then after she passed, we would talk about, and I'm like, John, you know what? I'm not near there yet. Like, no, I'm not ready yet. No, 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 no. And then when Trump's inauguration happened this January and we were talking, he had said, now is your time. This is when you can run. You don't have mom. Okay. You work from home. You make your own hours. Like, let's go. You can do it now. And I said, well, let me find out what's going on here first. Let me see who else is running or who's thinking of running. Now, granted, it's early because, the 2024 election had just passed. So in January and February, as I was, going to different groups, I'm talking to different people. And I would say, who's running against Jeff Van Joe in 2026? And people would say, it's too early to tell. I'm like, no, we need to get that person out in front of people today, calling out the atrocities and the cruelty that this administration is putting forward. And they need to speak to it now to get their name out, to get their base going, to build their coalition and their group. So we have to find someone. And I reached out to one of the candidates who was running, who had run previously. I reached out to his old campaign and said, hey, if you're running, I'd love to support you, but we need to get you out here now. And I never heard back from them. And so after hearing all of these no's, I finally said, you know what, I'm doing it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? I'm going to lose, right? Okay, so I'm doing it. So I soft launched on Facebook, and then I would hear from the different, from like the municipal chair and everything. They're like, we need to do this, you need to do that. I'm like, I get it. And they kept saying fundraising. You need to fundraise, like get your fundraising up.
Mhm.
And
Of course.
I'm like, I understand the importance of fundraising. I really do, because I know I need business cards and flyers and yard signs and yada, yada. Get it. Okay. And I said, but right now, what's important to me is meeting the people who are going to vote for me, because they're the ones who are going to vote. Whether they send me money or not, if they meet me, they believe in my platform, they think I'm the best person for the role, then they're going to vote for me, regardless of how much money I have. Now,
Yeah,
are
let's be
there
honest.
people? Yeah,
Like
no, yeah.
the
Go
people
ahead.
that you want to vote for you, we were just talking about the affordability crisis. There's not a lot of discretionary money to be giving.
Mm-mm,
So, you know,
mm-mm.
even if they might want to give money, people don't have
Money
just
to give.
huge savings accounts to give it
Hmm.
away to somebody else,
No,
to run for office.
absolutely.
Which is why I'm kind of doing what I'm doing here. Never,
Right.
same deal. Like didn't ever think to do this, but now it's like we need to get people elected that
Hmm.
can relate to the people that aren't doing so well,
Hmm.
that need to help everybody, right? To
Hmm.
get those voices out. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
tangent.
No, it's okay. Me too. But anyway, as well is like, and so that's what I did at the beginning and what I'm still doing now. I've gone to the different clubs, the different Democratic clubs and talked to them. I've gone to different community events where I can meet people that aren't necessarily Democrats, but also the Democrats who didn't vote, the independents, the unaffiliated, the non-MAGA Republicans, so on and so forth. I can go and I can talk to them, you know, and I call it a soft launch. So I have my social media pages, I have my website. Yes, I set up my fundraising, like all of that's going on and so on and so forth. But my focus is to get my name out there, get my face out there, talk to as many people as I can, and have genuine, authentic communications with people. And if they're able to donate, great. If they want to donate in kind, fantastic. Meaning, like, you know what? I'll pay for bumper stickers, or I'm going to buy you a cup of coffee, like whatever it is, like things like that. Fantastic. That's fine. Because one of the other considerations we have to have is my election is until next year. So we have a very important election in New Jersey this year, from the governor on down. And so what I've been telling people when they ask me that question is, well, right now, I'm not worried about earning money for me. If people want to donate, that's great. Do I do some soft things like, hey, can you just chip in $5 today? Sure. Okay, whatever. But if we have 3 of the 4 poorest counties in the state, and if there are people who have $20 that they want to donate, I think it's more important that they donate to the candidates who are on the ballot for this November so that they can get their resources out there so that they can get the votes that they need, um, than to give it to me who's running next year. you know and some people are like, oh, like that's, and I'm like, yeah, like we need to talk about this. This isn't all about Terri right now. This really needs to be about the people who are going to get us where we need to be in 2025 going into 2026. But then after November 5th, it's all Terri all the time and all bets are off. So
Well, that's great. Yeah, that's great. That's
that's what we
great
do.
of you to do that. It's a shame that we have to feel so money to
Hmm.
to make this happen. But it's great that you're thinking that way. And
Hmm.
let's talk about kind of those priorities you that are closest for you, the most important for you, most important for the New Jersey second,
Hmm. Hmm.
and um and what would you bring to it and to the district?
Okay. So I want to start with what I'd bring to the district first. So I'm a genuine, authentic person. What you see is what you get. I talk fast, I think fast, I walk fast. I go off on tangents. I love to tell stories, things like that. I'm not a politician. I'm not polished. My team, I have a what I call my senior leadership team. And they're always telling me, like, can you please stop wearing yoga clothes? And I'm like, I'm comfortable in yoga clothes. It's 105 degrees outside. If the boys want to wear the jackets with the button down shirts and the jeans, more power to them, but I'm going to be comfortable, and meet people where they are. I want to hear about them and what their needs are first before I even say, hi, my name is Terri and I'm running for Congress in 2026, because I'm really interested in what, the challenges are that people are facing, whether they're individuals at home or they're businesses that are out there. And what I bring to the table is that authenticity and that true caring of putting people first. And as I had mentioned earlier, I'm all about building relationships, looking at what the problems are and their root causes and finding solutions that will stand the test of time.
That's
And
how it comes through too, Terry. It really
yeah,
does. Like I'm
you
seeing it
know,
right in
yeah,
firsthand.
and I've
Authenticity is a great word to
yeah,
use for.
and I've lived the challenges, whether it's as a single mom, a single working mom, working ridiculous hours, long days, 10-day stretches, whatever it is, being unemployed, being on Medicaid, or not having insurance, how you're making everything work, and what the struggles are. So I had very real struggles. I had wonderful experiences, but I worked for them. Luckily, when I went to college, the student loan program was much different than it is now, which is strictly predatory lending practices. So at the time when I graduated college, we had a 6-month, you could only borrow X amount of dollars. That was it. You had a 6-month grace period when you graduated, and then you had a payment plan that was nominal interest, if not interest free. Okay. And I was able to pay it off. My friends and I were all able to pay off any student loans that we had before the 10-year time period was up. And that was it. And now you have kids who have 6-figure student loans, that their monthly payment is as much as a mortgage. Okay. And then their loans get sold off to another predatory lender, and it goes up even more. I've read stories of people who had borrowed, let's say $100,000, but because of interest and so on and so forth, they've already paid $100,000, but they still owe $200,000. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, and then you can struggle just to pay the interest on it, let alone the principal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
100%. 100%. So I bring that real life lived experience and struggles there. And then I think what you wanted to talk about, because I, of course, went off on a tangent, is what my passions are, what I'm going forward. Russ?
Yeah. So the top kind of, what you want people to know when you are in office representing them,
Mm-hmm.
what are the main things that you're going to say, I want to get this bill, put forward to help the people of New Jersey. We know about money in politics. I mentioned that at the start. That's why you're on the show. This is a get money out of politics show. And that issue touches so many other things. So, besides that, what, where are you kind of, in the political spectrum of areas?
Yeah. So there's a lot that I want to get done when I'm elected. And whether it's being a co-sponsor or sponsoring bills, I want to get rid of this theory that you have to have these big omnibus 1,000-page bills that people end up not reading, that elected officials are just dumping things in on because it's,
we just had one of those.
We did. And I read it. And it wasn't good. But I want to do things like one of my passion pieces is lifting the payroll tax cap for Social Security, because a person who makes $176,000 pays Social Security, towards Social Security all year round. But that's it. You're only paid on that first $176,000. So you have people who are centimillionaires, billionaires. They only pay up to the, what that payroll limit is. Lift the payroll tax cap, because what we're seeing, the benefit
of that is funding the program.
Funding the program for a longer period of time, if not a significant period of time, because we recently saw 2 different articles that said either Social Security will be insolvent by 2033, or that people on Social Security in 2023 will only start seeing receiving 81% of their benefits. So we need to do something to make this better. And if we make it a singular bill, this is what the bill is. Okay. Get people who don't think it's a good idea on record saying, yeah, no, we don't want to fully fund Social Security. Let that happen. Okay. Because I think it's important that people know, the everyday people know what the bill is and what it's going to do for them, as opposed to these 1,000-page bills that's in this, political legal speak that they're able to say, oh, this is great. But then you read it and it's like, yeah, no, it's not great. So
one of the things that I have concerned with is the move away from a defined benefit like pension plan that so many people used to have, in the 70s, a little bit of the older generation for me, but now it's 401k. So it's individual contributing out of your own paycheck to put money away. And when you have higher costs on everything else, you don't have that discretion to save for your own retirement. And Social Security gives that, a backstop, right? It helps with that. And let's be honest, it's not really enough in today's world to survive on.
No.
So even still, it's not enough. And if that goes away,
Mm-hmm.
and there's not the funding and the trust for that anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
It's
going to create a real havoc. Homeless crisis is already bad. I just
mm-hmm.
see it going, or people just work into the grave,
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, which
Yeah,
is really happening
absolutely.
today too. You see so many people, and you're like, why is
Absolutely.
this person still working?
Yeah,
You know, Uh,
absolutely. Absolutely. And to
and
bring up
and
the
by
affordability,
lifting
go
that
ahead.
cap is like an easy thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like that most people would be, the vast majority of people would be supportive of that policy to lift that cap or raise that cap at a minimum to
Mm-hmm.
fund this program
Right.
longer, because it is just so.
It's
How about
so
like on like
vital, so
I
vital.
hear so much about, Social Security, getting into this, about kind of the fraud or waste in it. I mean, isn't there something that we could do on that side too to make sure that the benefits are going to the right place? Because like that's another concern for people, is that they're contributing to it, but then their money that they're contributing, and this goes across the government. This isn't
Yeah,
just for Social Security, right? Is
right.
that the tax money that we're putting into the government is being wasted by programs that either don't need it, or people that are fraudulently abusing the system,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Is that an area that you care to address too?
absolutely. And I think that, yeah, that if there is fraud, waste, and abuse, that needs to be stopped. And however, in order to do that, you need to have the staff that can go in there and investigate it to see if it's actually happening. And what this administration did across the board, as we all know, is they fired inspectors general, whose job it was to look for fraud, waste, and abuse. Okay. They cut funding to vital services, which, when that happens, what gets cut? So, from a retail perspective, the first thing that happens when you don't have money, you get rid of your staff. So if you have these, so now you have Social Security offices that don't have enough staff to see, to look for who has fraud, waste, and abuse, or who can even help the clients, help the people on Social Security to get what they are, and answer questions and so on and so forth, like all of that. I remember one time being on hold all day for Social Security in my area one time when I was trying to find out something for my mom. I had to physically go down there and wait because they just never answer the phone. And that's getting worse. It's not getting better. So you can say fraud, waste, and abuse all the time that you want, and yes, it's bad and we need to get rid of it, and that's fine. But if you don't have people there who are trained to look for it, or you fired them already, then it's just a talking point. you
Wow.
know
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
can
No, that
definitely
makes a
put
ton
you
of sense. That makes a ton of sense, honestly. And
yeah.
yeah, it saves money in the short term by, getting rid of the administrative function
Mhm.
for that, right? Um, but what you then you just raise, you miss out on, is cutting down, or more people taking advantage of it, and it has the
Mhm.
opposite effect potentially.
Mhm.
More
It
people
does.
gaming
Yeah.
the system, and that's not
Yeah.
what we want as taxpayers.
No, and
It's not what I want as a taxpayer. It's something I really care a lot about, actually, is making sure that the money that I'm putting into the taxes coming out of my paycheck
Mhm.
is going to good purposes. And I just don't have that
Yep.
feeling right now today.
No, exactly. And what I equate it for, and what they did with the One Big Beautiful Bill and Doge and all that kinds of stuff, and rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse, all that, and so on and so forth. Which, again, I'm all for getting rid of fraud, waste, and abuse. I don't think that people should be, fraudulently accepting money that they don't deserve, that they shouldn't have, that they whatever. Okay. But at the same time, it reminds me of, you're penalizing an entire group of people because a small percentage are doing things that are wrong. So instead of rooting out who that small percentage is, you're taking away services from everybody. So it's like when you were in elementary school and somebody passed a note and got caught. So you're all being punished because this person did this bad thing. Instead of punish, you're going to go to the principal's office. Like, let's go.
Yeah,
It's
no, that's
just,
fair. And then there's
yeah.
more downward effects from that as
Mhm.
well. So now people that need it are struggling even more, which
Mhm.
creates more negative suffering consequences on our society,
Mhm.
right? More crime, more theft, probably more
Right.
wealth disparity,
Mhm.
more, just general struggles
Right.
uh, with addiction and mental health, and all of these things go hand
Mhm.
in hand in the downward spiral, right? That
Right.
can come from just a simple thing with like uh, a program that is getting defunded, or because of people gaming the system and then wanting to take it back. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's so interesting to me how these things all interconnect. And
Right. And then if we look at like even the IRS, you know, it's the IRS taking people away, taking, I don't know why I just froze, but taking people away from workers from the IRS whose job it was to go after the fraud, waste, and abuse, and especially on people who make the most money who aren't paying their fair share. So you have all of these loopholes that are already in there as it is. You have all of, they're taking advantage of the loopholes. Donald Trump himself said, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just taking advantage of all the loopholes that are afforded to me. He said that in 2016 when he was running for office. We need to get rid of those loopholes because the people who are the wealthiest among us, do they really need another island, another boat, another yacht, another home? Like really any of this? And it goes into the money in politics as well. There's so much money that is out there that people have that could be put to better use to help people instead of hoarding it,
man, it's
for
so
lack of a
interesting
better word.
because
Mhm.
because you've got this stock market that is hitting just absolute all-time highs. Cryptocurrency has made multimillionaires, right? And it's the downward effect of some of this, which is great for so many people. Let's be honest, and it's good, and I feel happy for so many people that are doing well.
Mhm.
There's so many people that are suffering actually because of the downward effect of it as well. So
Yeah.
we were mentioning housing costs going up and all these costs going up across the board, and and where's the money end up going to as well? Buying politicians. It's
Exactly.
and so you then have it in this circular um, uh, cycle where the money goes to the politicians, back to then the corporations, back to the
Right.
media, and then back to. So
Yeah.
I
It's
don't
a
know.
vicious, it's a vicious, vicious cycle. And the thing is like you, I don't begrudge anyone their success. I applaud them. I am like your biggest cheerleader if you made a success of yourself. I think that's awesome. Terrific. But we also need to make sure that people are paying equitably into the system because we're a society. Okay. As much as people, we're not in a vacuum. We all live in the same society. And I always felt that, you know, we should be judged on how well the most vulnerable among us are treated and thriving. Like how are they moving forward? Okay. And it's one of the way that I ran my stores is like I knew that retail wasn't a thing for everybody, but I knew everybody had a purpose. And I knew that my store would only be successful if the person who was the lowest producer was successful. And it was finding out what their niche was. What is it that you like to do the best? All right. And getting them in
That's such
there.
a great point. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's such a great point.
and
Yeah,
getting them in there, getting them trained, giving them the resources that work on their strengths, and then we were all successful. And when people would say, "Oh my God, you did so well," I'm like, "I didn't do this. My team does this." Like the store's success is a result of everybody who works here. It's not just me. I might be their leader, I might be their manager, I might be their confidant, their trusted advisor, whatnot, you know, but everybody has buy-in because everybody felt seen, they felt heard, they felt valued, and we move forward with that. And that's what we're missing as a society here as well. And instead we're looking, there are people in government today that are looking at those who are the most vulnerable, that need the most help, and see them as disposable. They don't see them as people who can contribute to the society. They want to contribute to the society. And we've seen that with people who are disabled achieving wonderful things. We've seen that with seniors that go back to college and get degrees. We see people who are homeless that get somebody who believes in them and are able to be successful.
yeah,
So we
and it's and
see
it's and it's
all of that.
yeah, and not even just the most vulnerable too. Like it feels like making more people vulnerable
Mhm.
along the way. We're going the opposite direction where
Mhm.
just the middle class is now struggling,
Mhm.
you know, and I know everybody is different, right?
Yeah.
But when you look at the credit card bill at the end of the month,
Mhm.
yeah, I guarantee most people are like falling off their chair every time they see it, and it's like, how is this possible that it costs this much to live? And they're doing the right thing,
Mhm.
right? And it feels like your money is being stolen from you,
Mhm.
you know?
Mhm.
So
And given
how do
to
we
somebody
right, so
else.
in South Jersey, in North Jersey, in you know, wherever you are,
Mhm.
so many people are having that same feeling right now.
Yeah.
How do we change that? How do we get it back where that's not the case? Like, how do we get back to the point where everyday, you know, people that are fully employed, and you know, listen, we gotta work on people that don't have full employment, and people that have student loans or medical debt and these things as well. Um, but full-time workers doing the right thing and still struggling,
Oh, yeah.
still not struggling to make ends meet, or worried about, you know, the college bill that's coming around the corner for their kids because they know their kids aren't going to be able to afford that and they don't want to burden them with that. So
Mhm.
how do we get around that? Do you have any
Mhm.
ideas?
I have lots of ideas. So what we what we need to do is we need to have an equitable tax system so that this way and that it have right now, I believe it has 7 layers. We need to have it have more layers, and especially, to talk to the people who are the super wealthy. As I said, the centimillionaires and the billionaires, okay? So that they're paying an equitable amount of tax, regardless, without the loopholes. We need to take a look at the loopholes and do things that are more beneficial for the country. So, for instance, I don't know if you knew this, but in the One Big Beautiful Bill, they took away tax exemptions or tax write-offs for bicycle commuters. Okay,
No,
which
no, I didn't
meant
know that.
that you couldn't deduct, your bicycle commuting expenses. All right. Now,
Oh,
granted, that's only $750,000 maybe nationwide because not a lot of people in our
but
country
they don't want
bicycle
people
commute.
riding bikes, basically.
Okay.
Is that they want to
So
like?
now, but bicycles, they don't add to the carbon footprint, you know,
Mhm.
if it's just a regular bicycle. It's a regular bicycle, it's healthy, it's talk about, make America healthy again. Riding bicycles, commuting, da, da, da. But so they took that away, but they added in the tax deduction for private jets.
Do you think that?
Like,
Yeah. Do you think that the talk about the tax code is going to help in your campaign? Do you think it is going to help or hurt? Like, just generally, um, because I know people will be fearful when they hear, you know, more taxes. I mean, I think that the way that you focus it is on like the super rich is
yes,
what you're getting at, right? Which
yes.
is
And I think
like
restructured
people
because
that we probably don't even know those individuals. I'm sure
yeah,
they're good, they're great people and super fortunate. I hope they feel super fortunate with
mhm.
that.
They're talking
But
about 1,000 people in this country. A
right,
thousand
right.
people that make that kind of money, you know, and to not put the burden continuously on the poor, the working poor, and the middle class. Like that's where it's been, that's where it keeps going, and so
So
on and so forth.
theoretically, it shouldn't hurt you in South Jersey because
Mm-mm.
they just don't. There's none of your constituents really even fit into that mold,
No,
right? For the most
mm-mm,
part,
no,
even the people with the nice beach houses don't really fit into that mold for the most part.
no. And even if there are people with the nice beaches out here, this is like their second or third or fourth or fifth home, you know. So, but going into that too, I think that for this area, we need responsible corporate investment. And what that means is corporations that are going to build down here that are going to provide a livable wage. And I think a livable wage is very different than a minimum wage because a livable wage is what it takes to live in your area. And it could be different. So people talk about a national minimum wage. Well, what a minimum livable wage in New Jersey is different than a minimum livable wage in Mississippi. So it has to be a livable wage that's tied to inflation. And this corporate, this responsible corporate investment down here means that they're not only providing their employees with a livable wage, but they're also providing benefits. And they're also providing responsible infrastructure that puts energy back into the system and supporting the environment. So in our area down here, like you said, we have the beaches, we have the farms, we have the low-lying waterways, we have the aquifer that supplies the drinking water for all of South Jersey. Okay. So when we have these corporations and we've seen, I digress, we've seen our electric bills skyrocket. And the reason it skyrocketed is because there's not enough energy going into the grid to supply the demand. Okay. So there's a big discussion on windmills here. Windmills take a long time to build. I'm not against wind. I just don't necessarily think that being in the ocean is the right thing. I think that we should look into see where other places we can put them to generate that. But in the fastest way to get energy back in our grid in New Jersey is solar. And if we're using solar, because it can be put in fast, if it can tied into the grid, on these buildings, on these big warehouses, the AI centers, over top of parking lots, all of that to get it in there too. And then we speak about these AI data centers. They use a lot of fresh, drinkable, potable water in order to cool their systems. So now we're going to see our water prices go up because the water's, being used in such a way, but it's also potentially damaging to our environment and our ecosystem and the aquifer. So why not have a wastewater treatment facility that can be built that can put the water to cool the servers and so on and so forth, like that.
Do you think that there's like profiteering going on in the energy industry where, we're paying so much more, and is it all the supply and demand, or is there actually like the fact that there's consolidation in the industry, not enough competition, leading to taking advantage of consumers and the citizens of our country?
Yep, I think it's both, because we're not hearing that the executives in the energy sector, are going bankrupt. So we're not hearing that. What we're hearing is that the consumers are the ones who are struggling to pay their bills because the energy prices just keep going up. Okay, so there are things that responsible corporations could do to bring costs down. And one of them is
let's take a look.
Too. Let's take a look at the executive compensation guidelines. I mean, I don't know if you saw Tesla. Tesla's board wants to offer Elon Musk $1 trillion package. Nobody needs $1 trillion package. You just don't. Okay.
Well, we all do, actually. We all need $1 trillion package.
But
so
if
once we all get it, then Elon can get it too.
Exactly. But I think that's a big thing. But to your point as well, my own father was a victim of these energy supplier, which are scams. Like, if you think that you have a better energy supply, that's great. Okay.
I got scammed by an energy supplier one time.
Yeah. And that's the thing too.
And Esco, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, oh yeah, so my energy bills are going to be really, really small, but then they just don't say, but after 2 years, they're going to triple or quadruple. And I actually had to call and say, you just took advantage of a senior citizen, and we're not doing this, or I'll get an attorney. Like, we're done. Like, you're cutting this out. And that's what we did. But
yeah. So problems. We need solutions. We need solutions, and we need solutions. And that's why, Terri, it's great to have this discussion, because we are talking about a lot of problems, but at the heart of so much of this is the corrupt political system. Now, it's like the politicians that are in there, they're not breaking any laws. They're not, well, some might be. Yeah, I know. Pause. Some might be, but for the vast majority, it's the system that's the problem. And so why we end up getting ourselves into these problems that we're talking about is because of the central one that's around the legalized campaign, air quotes, campaign contributions that corporations, which are really owned by people, and they can use their treasury funds to put money into, the candidates that they want, and then just completely silence voices like your own who are saying, we have problems here. And money in politics is one of them that needs to be addressed. So that's why I'm so happy that you're coming on to talk about this stuff. And
Mhm.
you're a voice. You're somebody that's signed a pledge of
Mhm.
integrity with
Yep.
money out of politics movement that says, you're basically vowing not to take corporate money, not
Correct.
basically, but you're
Mhm.
vowing not to take corporate money, not to take large donor money.
Mhm.
So you're creating zero conflicts of interest. You're maintaining through that full integrity of your campaign and then your political career after, like if you're to get in office. And, I'm listening to you talk. I believe you. You're very down to earth um, and relatable,
Mhm.
you know? So, so I applaud you for stepping up and putting yourself into this craziness that has been created, like, let's be real, on purpose.
Yep.
This is the circus and the obstacles that have been created. No one person, I shouldn't say they, it doesn't work like that in my mind, but the American people are aware of it now. And it might have taken a little while for some of us, or over time to wake up to it. But I'm seeing this movement, this money out of politics movement, really start to take place. And thank you for signing that pledge. That's what brought us together,
Yep.
was you signing that pledge.
Mhm. Yeah, I'd love to sign it, and the Citizens United decision is one of the worst things to happen to our political landscape. And as you said, it allows for unlimited amount of money to go into politics and towards candidates. And what happens is that causes a disconnect in between who the politician is actually serving. So if somebody gives you $1 million, okay, and they say, I want you to vote this way, if you say no, you know, they could say, I want my $1 million back. Because I know as a candidate, if somebody donates money to me, now granted, as a candidate, the max limit for my campaign is 3,500. So that's what it is. But you can have super
Still a
PAC.
lot of money for me, honestly.
It's a lot of money for a lot of people. Um, and but they have you have your super PACs, you have your dark money nonprofits that don't have to just to disclose who their donors are. And they can do their own things on your behalf as a candidate. And that's what we've seen. That's what Elon Musk did for Donald Trump. Okay. So that's how they can put money in. So what we need to do is get rid of Citizens United. And I like what that congressman, and I forget his name off the top of my head. So
McGovern?
Adam Schiff is doing the Citizens United, and then the McGovern is doing the other one that talks about, the max limit's $1,000, the max expenditure is $1,000, which is doable. I mean, I know how much my business cards cost, I know how much my flyers cost and things like that. So it's making the politicians really work for the votes, as opposed to just thinking that they're going to get it because they have all of this money and they can do all of this advertising for votes. So I know our own
All
congressman.
the negative ads too. It's not just for votes.
Oh yeah, all the
It's
negative ads to tear people down. The negative
yeah,
ads
what's
that
it?
went against Amy Kennedy in 2024.
Defaming people with
Mhm,
lies. It's been going
mhm.
on. There's a documentary on HBO about it right now, I think, called Dark Money.
Oh
There was
yeah,
also a PBS documentary that you can find on the
yeah,
PBS documentary I don't know, station, but online somewhere.
right.
Also called Dark Money, which was set in Montana a couple years ago.
Hmm.
And for people watching that might not know, within the last 2 weeks, there's been 2 constitutional amendments introduced in Congress, one in the House and one in the Senate. And there was a one that was introduced earlier in the year as well. So now there's 3 constitutional amendments to get big money out of politics that are in Congress right now. The most recent one was Senator Adam Schiff, right, from California.
Yep.
And a lot of people like to bash him for different things. But hey, credit where credit is due,
Hmm.
and respect, because he put forward a bill that a lot of people know is not a bill, an amendment that a lot of people know is needed. And and it's called Citizens Over Corporations, I believe.
Mhm.
And it gets at overturning Citizens United,
Mhm.
which sounds great. You
Mhm.
know, the Citizens United sounds great, but in reality, it was one of the worst things to ever happen to this country.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
Supreme Court decision, not even legislation that was passed.
They said money is equal to speech. Money is
Right.
equal to free speech.
And
Okay.
and
And it's
nobody
money is
actually
money.
believes that.
No.
Yeah.
And then, but what's needed is the follow-up that McGovern introduced is because you do Citizens United and you do that, but then it's also, he's putting the steps that also need to happen. So he talks about, like I said, limiting expenditures and donations to $1,000. He talks about having kind of like a federal fund that gets distributed amongst candidates. So equally,
Hmm.
which I think
Yeah,
is,
like
which is
public
good,
financing.
like public financing,
Right.
like that kind of stuff. Because,
Yeah.
and again, as I was starting to say about our current representative, okay, he doesn't hold town halls. He
Oh,
has very structured, very well planned um, opportunities where he goes into the community. Okay, they're not advertised. They're usually closed to the general public, so it's very structured. Okay, he doesn't meet people where they are. He's
and
not
he's
just
been in office there now
since
for like
2018. And remember, in 2018, he was elected
7
as a
years.
Democrat. So a Democrat can win this district. He met
Hmm.
with Donald Trump, gave his loyalty to Donald Trump, and switched to being a Republican.
So in preparing to talk to you, I was curious to see because I know money. Everybody asks, as you said, when you go to runs, everybody says, "How much money do you have, and how can you fundraise?" Right? It's like the first question, and if you don't have enough, they don't take you seriously
Right,
as a candidate, right? Which is, come on, that's a problem, right? Everybody knows that's a problem.
right.
So I looked up, and his name, right, the Congressman
Jeff
Jeff
Van Drew. Mhm,
Van Drew, right,
mhm.
has raised roughly, $3.5–4 million every 2 years. So 13-ish million, probably now even more as we kind of going into the next one. He's probably going to be pushing somewhere in that $17 million range, maybe even more if this race gets competitive.
Right. But what I can
The money's
say,
going to be flooding in, and that money is going to go to attack ads,
mhm,
nonstop mailers,
mhm,
commercials during, I love watching Wheel of Fortune. I always talk about watching Wheel of Fortune at night and guilty pleasure. And it's just political ad after political ad after political ad and attack ads. And it's like, well, if you don't take the money, those attack ads are going against you. So, it's the system that's built that
bring
you
it
almost
on.
have to take. You have to take the money.
Mhm,
Otherwise, you're doomed.
mhm. Yeah,
And
bring it on. That's fine.
we want to change that.
Yeah,
We
we
want
want
to
to change
change
it.
that.
Yeah, there shouldn't be there. People should be running on their for an incumbent. They should be running on what they've done for their constituents and what they want to continue to do or they want to do going forward. Okay, they should speak on their record. Okay, people going into office should talk about what their platform is and what they want to do for their constituents. Okay. If you want to point out any kind of disparity, so for instance, if Jeff Van Drew says, as he did, I will never vote for anything that touches Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. Well, you did in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Okay. You
Well, it
did.
touched it bigly. It touched it big time.
It touched it bigly, and then, but what they do is they're able to speak out of both sides of their mouth. So I'm not signing this unless it takes care of waste, fraud, and abuse. So that's how he was just like, it doesn't touch it. It just does this to it to get rid of fraud, waste, and abuse. And that was their qualifier for it. Similar to where we just had the
Well, it
big,
took billions out of the program.
oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So
It did
I
that.
saw on his
And
website. Now I don't know him. I don't know
mhm,
him. I'm sure, he's probably a very nice person and he's operating in the political system that's been built. My
mhm,
hope is that he understands this problem as well
mhm.
and is saying and can say to himself that no, there's a problem here. I don't know that he will, but I'd love to know if he can acknowledge that money in politics is a problem because we need Republican voices to acknowledge it as well. I don't think that he
Mhm,
will, but I have
mhm.
hope. I have hope that people start to on on that side, because there's so many things that I do care about myself, and I know a lot of people do, on the conservative side as well. And, I imagine you too. And we can talk and
Mhm.
say, how about like the national deficit or the national debt, the
Yeah.
trade, deficit as well. Like, what do you care about those things? Because I
Yeah,
know a lot of people do, right?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And we shouldn't be passing on this debt to our children and our grandchildren, and we've seen Democratic presidents and administrations be able to do better to get the debt less and less and less. And then the Republicans come in and they get more. I think the last thing I read is that 1/4 of the debt that we are in is due to Trump's own policies. So, but going into that, but I just also want to say too, is like, the more money you make, the more money you spend, as you said on all of these attack ads. So yes, Jeff Andrew has been able to get $3.5, $4 million, but then he's also spending 2.5, $3.5 million as well, you know. And my big complaint about that is all of these millions and billions of dollars that have been spent on campaigns over the last many years. That money could have been used to help people. It could have been used, children shouldn't be, there are things that I don't think that should be partisan in any way, shape, or form. Children, seniors, and veterans. So all of that money could have been better suited into programs to support those three communities.
Yeah.
And we go
Lack
into,
lack of money availability, that's
yeah,
not a problem for, like,
mm-mm.
the system as a whole. The money's there.
The money's there, just what you're going to do for it. So, for instance, let's talk about the $170 million in the One Big Beautiful Bill that's being put towards militarizing our immigration system. So, are you telling me that $170 million couldn't be better well spent into a humane, compassionate immigration program that provides a path to citizenship?
Yeah, I would have loved to see more judges to hear
Mhm.
cases, to get the backlog down,
Well, they
you
took them
know
away in the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Oh, did they? Oh,
Oh yeah, they
yeah.
limited the amount of immigration judges. So their cases are going up. The people who can see those cases or adjudicate them are going down. The resources for these people are being taken away, or being discounted completely, like the plane load of children that were going to be sent to Guatemala without supervision, that were
Well done.
in custody of the people they were supposed to be in the custody of, the government program they were supposed to be in the custody of. And yet they were like, no, and they're like, no, we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. You can't do this, and a judge did stop it. But that's what we're working on here.
The one
It's
thing
just,
that wasn't in the big beautiful bill
what's that?
that, I'm not surprised by it, honestly, but, given everything, there was no well, for me, there was nothing about campaign finance reform. There was nothing in there about this, kind of critical initial
Yeah,
campaign promise from 2016 election about, you know, getting
training
corporate
the
PAC
sport.
money. And quote was basically saying, the level of corruption in politics is out of control. That's Donald Trump's, essential quote in saying that super PACs are a problem. He knows it. And
He runs with them.
yeah, and then it's so disappointing,
It's very
honestly.
disappointing. It's very, very disappointing. As somebody, so I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, and it's not because he's president, okay? Even though what he's done as president is just obscene. But I don't like Donald Trump for what he did to Atlantic City. So I don't know if
Mm.
you're aware of what he did here, or if the viewers are all aware here, but he had 3 casinos here in Atlantic City. He refused to pay bills or paid pennies on the dollar to local contractors that helped build those casinos. So as a result, there were a lot of people in the construction industry in our area that lost their jobs. Some of them lost their businesses. Okay? So you
It's
have
like
that
real
going on.
world, yeah.
Real world. Okay?
Mhm.
And the problem with that is that some of those workers that were let go by their bosses vote for Donald Trump because they see Donald Trump as the savior. They don't see him as the cause for why they lost their jobs. They blame the person who fired them or had to let them go. And it's like they don't see that's the way, like, you have to look at the root causes of things. Like, how did this happen? Well, this happened because Donald Trump didn't pay your boss. That's why I can't pay you and I have to close shop. That's my
Yeah,
biggest
it was
gripe
an
about
interesting
Donald Trump.
decision. I don't know. Actually, I won't even get into that. I
Okay.
just say interesting decision to have to own 3 casinos in the same, but,
And they went
maybe that's a
bankrupt. How do you bankrupt a casino? I mean, come on here. He's not the great businessman people think that he is. But we digress. So let's get back to
yeah.
money and politics. Okay.
Exactly. It's
So
not about,
no,
President Trump.
right.
It's about the
Right.
system, and it's about actually South Jersey, voters knowing
Mhm.
who is the right person to vote for, right? And you or whomever, right, trying to prove to them that they're the right ones to vote for, and
Mhm.
getting around this big money system that sets
Mhm.
up obstacles
Right.
and will defame. I'm going to guess that if you do well, there's going to be like these attack ads that say you're radical and you're something else. I haven't heard anything so far
Mm-mm.
that's radical. I
Yeah.
haven't, on the contrary. So it's been very, very down to earth. It's been a very relatable conversation
Right.
for me, and
Mhm.
probably for everybody that's listening as well.
Mhm.
So Terri Reese,
Terri
right?
Reese.
Remember
Terri
that
Reese in
name
Congress.
because you're probably not going to see it all over TV, most likely, unless it's small dollar donors, start coming to you because you've sworn off the big dollars.
Mhm.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you so much for doing that. It's so important.
Mhm.
We need more people to do that as well. And I we got some time coming up before the primary. I'm sure you have things coming up. Is there stuff that you want to promote right now coming up, or other
Um,
podcasts or things? I'm anxious to get this one out there and on the air for everybody.
so I am on social media. Okay, so I do have a Facebook page, an Instagram page, a TikTok, which I was just joking about today. It feels like your mom's on TikTok asking you to vote for her kind of thing, you know? Okay. I'm on X, I'm on Blue Sky, I have a Substack. I have my website, of course. It's Terri Reese for NJCD2 .com. That's where people want to donate. If they want to donate, they can certainly do that too. I am out and about in the community on the weekends. From here, I'm going to an art exhibit up in Elmer, and then I'll be going to Fort Dix to support my friends, Indivisible, Ocean City, New Jersey, who are going to be up there for Fort Dix protesting up there for putting migrants in the detention center there. But that's what I do. I go in and around and about throughout the community. If there's people in CD2, what would be absolutely great is look at my campaign. If I'm the person you think best represents you, which is who you should be voting for, who best represents your values and you think's going to, or who you believe is going to do the work to make your life better, reach out, hold a meet and greet. Invite your family and friends. I would love to meet you. There's one other thing I want to say about money and politics, because I know we went off so much and things like that. So it's not just about how money and politics goes to, the campaigns, which is really, really bad, because we see that because then you're getting the person who has the most amount of money elected to office as opposed to the person who would be best suited for the job. Okay. But then what happens is the candidates then owe something to those people that paid all that money into their campaign. That's why we see the people who are being appointed to different roles. That's why we see people who are getting sweetheart deals when it comes to drilling, lumber in national forests, all of those kinds of things. These big money donors, and that corrupts the political sphere. If I'm having $5 donors, I'm representing my constituents, whether you donate it or not. Okay, the constituents who live here to make the world a better place. I'm not going to be bought by somebody who wants to privatize education, or somebody who wants to just drill baby drill or decimate our national parks and national forests or any of that kind of stuff. I want to bring opportunity, affordability, healthcare, improve the lives of the people that are here, not just
Small
now,
business.
small business, but for our kids. Because what we see is a lot of our kids go off to college and school, but they don't come home because there's no opportunity here. We want them to
Mhm.
bring what they learn there, come here, and let's bring that knowledge and put it to work here. So we're so much more than just the casinos. We're so much more than $1 million homes. We're so much more than the farms, like everything that they are. There's so much
Yeah. We want to see
opportunity.
the rebirth of all these
Yes,
towns, and that ice cream shop, for instance, coming back.
absolutely. Absolutely. The main streets and everything. I mean,
Yeah.
we really need to do that. And because for far too long, this district has just been ignored.
Yeah. It's
It's been
the
ignored.
downward effect of
Mhm,
the corrupting system. And we've seen it over the last
mhm.
50 years of this country,
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
um it's been such a pleasure. I look forward to having you like conversation again, in the future, coming back again. Guys, Terri Reese, Terri Reese for njcd2.com, or just Google Terri Reese for
Oh,
Congress.
yeah.
I'm sure you'll
It'll come
probably
up.
get there.
And it's Terry with
Uh,
an I, Terri.
Terry with an I. Oh my God, that just reminded me of something. Oh my God.
Well, if you want to hear something funny, because I know we're just going way over time, but I have a cousin whose name is Terri Reese,
Oh,
but her
okay.
name is spelled with a Y, and she lives in Delaware. And I actually met someone who's a councilman in Egg Harbor City, and he was saying, Terri Reese, your family live around here? I'm like, yeah, they do. Like they've been here since the, late 1920s, you know? And they're like, do you have a cousin named Terri Reese? And I'm like, you got a married name for me? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, yes, it is. Our dads were cousins. So yeah, she's a huge, huge supporter. And so we're the Terrys. The Terrys.
Excellent.
Mhm.
I wish you the absolute best, and listen, share Terry's story, share Terry's campaign, right? Word of mouth is
Mhm.
one of the best ways
Huge.
to go
Mhm.
about it. So if you hear this and you tune into this podcast, share it with somebody, especially over in that second district of New Jersey, if you're in that South Jersey area. We love it down there. It's a absolute beautiful place. Family that vacations down there, like I said earlier to you. And
Mhm.
yeah. So, all
Mhm.
right. What else? If you like this podcast, right? If you like this episode, what we're doing here, share what we're doing too, because there's going to be more of it. Terry, you were the third candidate in what we're calling the Candidate Coalition Series. So there's more to come. We've got John Thorpe coming up. John's from Tennessee, 7th, I believe. And then we have Hunter Miranda from California's 47th coming up soon too. And then more to come after that. And what we really want to do is just give candidates that want to get money out of politics a platform to share their story, share what they care about, and show that they care about getting money out of politics. And this movement is gaining traction, and I think what we're going to bring out soon, hopefully soon, is a pathway to the amendment, so we can show the voters how we actually get there. And this is not just a pipe dream. This is not something that we are forced to live with for eternity.
Mhm.
We got, as I mentioned, 3 constitutional amendments out there right now. And now we're looking for the people that are going to be the representatives that are going to be able to put the votes
Mhm.
for passing those amendments. So
Mhm.
thank you, Terry, and thank you everybody for watching. And I would say like, share, comment, and show us some love. Thank you, everybody. Take
Thank
care.
you. Bye.
Bye.